Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. My name is AJ. So I had a really special guest today in my live chat, Patrick Lancaster, who's an amazing guest, and he had some amazing things to say. Unfortunately, I can't share it with you guys because as soon as the live stream ended, YouTube decided to demonetize it, and they've also put a strike on my channel. And as you can see, a lot of videos are just demonetized. I'm not able to upload anything. So I'm trying to upload it again one more time. And if it fails, I'm just going to say, screw it, guys. You know, there's not much I can do. However, I have uploaded a version of it on my Patreon. As you can see, it's on my Patreon, so you can watch the full video, the full interview. It's also on my locals channel as well. So you're welcome to join my locals. You're welcome to join my Patreon. You would also be helping me out, and you'll be able to see the full video there. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you soon.
Take care of some things. But very soon, unfortunately, it's still needed for me to show what's happening in Donbass and around Ukraine. So very soon, I'm going to be headed back into the war zone and be showing again, as I always do, what's really happening on this side of the contact line.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's not waste time. Let's carry on with the bulk of the show. So the first question I have for you, there's some reports about Russian troops going into Nikolaev last few days. So what do you think is going to happen from now? Are they looking to take over Nikolaev, then on to Odessa, then head on further west? And what do you think will happen?
Well, I think the overall consensus now and what people on the ground think there, whether there's the Russian citizens living in Donbass and Kherson, or the soldiers themselves, it seems most people think that Russia is going to be pushing it through Nikolaev into Odessa and past to reach Primozdrovia and basically cut off Ukraine from the Black Sea. That's the overall consensus. The consensus before was that Ukraine had the chance to have a ceasefire or have a capitulation of just giving up the Donetsk, Lugansk regions and Crimea. Just basically, if they would have said at the beginning, okay, we're hands off Donetsk, Lugansk, and Crimea, then it would have been over. But I think that time has passed, and Russia is going to be pushing past Odessa and cutting Ukraine off. That's what it seems like.
Sure. So let's go back to Donbass. Let's start from the beginning. I had a couple of questions about Mariupol, and obviously the Azov militants put up a final stand there, and the Western media was saying Azovs are great heroes of Ukraine. They are putting up a last stand. However, the truth is not the case, is it? I mean, I'm hearing reports they have been hijacking civilians and putting these civilians in harm's way, and so many horror stories. While the Western people are just putting these Azovs as heroes, but it seems like they're cowards to me. And the second question is, are there any Azovs left in Donbass and Mariupol? Are they still? Because I'm still hearing there's a lot of attacks against civilians in Donbass area.
Well, as far as the correlation between Azov and the civilians in Mariupol, my first experience with the results of the Azov battalion was one of the first days that I was in Mariupol back in March. We were in the heart of it, because at that time the front line, it wasn't anything like we were used to in Donbass, where for the last 8 years there's been these trenches dug and they were just really dug in front lines. In Mariupol, it was just by hours the front line could change. It wasn't like trenches, it was just who happened to be standing on what streets, and they kind of controlled a certain corner and stuff like this. So one of my first days in, we went to school number 25, in Mariupol, and we found um, that in the basements it had been used by Ukrainian forces in Azov battalion as somewhat of a bunker or a base, and we found a lot of military uniforms of Azov and Ukraine forces. That what had appeared and purportedly happened was when they were evacuating or trying to get out, they ditched their uniforms and put on civilian clothes. And we also found a lot of weapons, AKs and even rocket launchers and things that were burned. And again, what appeared to happen there is that they burned these weapons on their way out so they wouldn't fall into DPR Russian hands. Now, keep in mind, this is all in the basement of school number 25 in Mariupol. And as we went through this area, and this is all on my channel, all documented statistically with Russian and English subtitles. And as we went through this base, finding more and more chevrons of Azov and Ukrainian military, just different things that, I mean, it was clear they had been in that basement for some time. And once we got to the end of the basement, it was almost it went from very dark, and then as soon as it opened up to the little bit of light coming in from some of the far windows, it was almost cinematic. It was unreal at the time. It came forward and found a young woman under a pile of clothes, naked, with a plastic bag taped over her head and tape around her neck, bloody, with a swastika carved into her stomach. And she'd clearly been raped and executed and tortured by what appeared from the swastika as the Azov battalion, because they're well-known Nazi battalion, and it was very hard to see at the time, almost hard to process, just the horror that we were witnessing. And when we were first to put these videos out, I put this out on my channel, and not even a week or two later, the press rep of Zvinitsky took a photo from this woman that had the swastika painted on or carved on her chest, and published it saying that it was Russian atrocities from Bucha. I mean, a total bald-faced lie. And this is coming from the government of Ukraine, lying about the story that I broke in the basement of a school in Mariupol. Weeks later, saying it was Russian atrocities. The exact same woman that was covered by myself and many other journalists, Indian journalists, Russian journalists, Italian journalists, all covered this, but Ukraine government lied about this and told the world that this was from Bucha. And still to this day, you can search girl swastika Ukraine, and you'll find pieces of articles showing this same photo that they lied about in the United States mainstream media, Europe mainstream media, all across the Western mainstream media. You'll still find this photo that Ukraine said was Russian atrocities in Bucha. But the fact is that it was a Ukraine war crime in the basement of a school in Mariupol. But still to this day, they have not changed their story and just continue to promote these lies from the Ukrainian government.
Thanks for that, Patrick. Yes, it's very sad to hear accounts like this, but you never hear anything like this in the Western media. Any negative stories will only be about Russia. Any positive stories will only be about Ukraine. So my second question about the Azovs, are there still Azovs operating in the Donbass area, do you know, even undercover?
Well, there's, I mean, I would say there's probably some spy groups and saboteur groups going on. I can't really say with confidence where and what. That's more of a higher level, you know, military operation information type of thing. But as far as in the Ukrainian-controlled territory in Donbass, which there is still a lot of what was the Donetsk Oblast or the Donetsk People's Republic. Still a lot of that is controlled by Ukraine. Lugansk Oblast or Lugansk People's Republic is pretty much, I think they've made the declaration time back that they control everything. But in, say, Adevka, in the little bits in Pesky that are still have Ukrainian soldiers, there are some Azov. I'm not sure exactly the total number in the stats of them themselves there. But as far as Donbass and control of Ukraine and the Russian side, the Donetsk People's Republic still has a good amount of territory that is controlled by Ukraine forces, and some of those are Azov forces and private sector for that matter.
Sure. So I've recently read a report by Amnesty International saying that Ukraine has been using civilian buildings and civilians, putting them in harm's way, and the Ukrainians have obviously put their arms up and started complaining. And the leader of the Amnesty International guy, they're asking for his resignation because this article came out. And, what do you think about all of this? And what's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there's no question that Ukrainian forces have used civilian infrastructure and civilian areas as firing positions. I mean, virtually every single newly controlled Russian village that Russia has taken control of from Ukraine, I have been in dozens over the last 6 months, and there is not one of these villages that I was not given eyewitness accounts of Ukraine using civilian areas, civilian homes, civilian infrastructure as firing positions and bases. I've seen it dozens, if not hundreds of times with my own eyes. As I said, a basement in a school basement in Mariupol. Not near the only one that I've seen that Ukraine has used. They've used schools, cafeterias, hospitals. I mean, this is a fact, and this isn't just in the last 6 months. Yes, today is the 6-month anniversary of this, what the Western thinks is the war. No, the fact is this war has been going on for 8 years, and I've been seeing these atrocities over and over again. In the Western mainstream media, they put up this how Ukraine claimed that Russia fired on a prenatal and labor hospital in Mariupol, when in fact I was in Donetsk when they fired on a hospital where actually one child had to be one woman had to give birth while she was in the bomb shelter of this hospital. And I mean, these are things that just happen over and over daily. I mean, just yesterday, the Central Hotel in Donetsk was hit directly with shells from Ukrainian-controlled territory. So that makes the two major hotels in the center of Donetsk have been targeted and hit by Ukraine artillery attacks. And this is a fact. The first one was the Donbass Palace, which was the highest, most luxury hotel in Donetsk, and took a direct hit, and several people died. And this is also a hotel that was used by many journalists as somewhat of a base, and the Central Hotel also was used. So it's not, there's no question that Ukraine is targeting civilians now and during the past 8 years. I mean, they're littering the streets of Donetsk with these little butterfly mines that they don't even need to be stepped on to explode. They could just randomly explode with a change of heat, and they're showering civilian areas with this. I mean, it's just the facts that the Western mainstream media will not show. As you said, the Western mainstream media will only show the positive things for Ukraine. Nothing negative for Ukraine, only negative things for Russia. And that's why I'm trying to show the other side. And like Alex said, watch my side, my reports, because I can't show you what's happening in Kiev or Odessa. I only show you what's happening in Donbass and Kherson and the Russian-controlled territories of Ukraine. You need to watch reports from both sides to make an educated decision on what you think's really happening.
Thanks for that, Patrick. And those of you who are listening, if you can hit the like channel, it really helps with the algorithm, and also any donations will go straight to Patrick. So one of the things on people's minds at the moment is this horrific terrorism attack in Russia, where that car bomb killed that young lady. What are your thoughts on that? And do you have any idea who could have been behind it?
Of course, when anybody passes before it's their time, it's a horrible thing, even when it's a young woman like that. There are definitely terrorist acts that are going on, even when I'm in some of the less controlled territories of Ukraine. There's still some questions, and I look underneath our vehicles on a daily basis as well. I think it's pretty obvious that this was an assassination attempt by Ukraine forces, and she happened to fall in the middle. I doubt that she was the target. That Ukraine is deciding to fight this war.
Yeah, it's a real shame when innocent people get in the middle of these horrific acts. So it's a real shame that. So I wanted to ask you, Patrick, what's your thoughts on how Russia is progressing in this special military operation? I mean, how do you think they're progressing? I mean, the Western media, I've seen some Western media hits, they are still saying that Russia is losing badly. They're about to collapse. While, anybody with the ounce of a brain will know it's the other way around. Ukraine is about to collapse. How long does Zelensky got? I mean, surely he can't run an army with no money whatsoever. I mean, Ukraine is losing so much money. The only money they are getting is from handouts from the West, a little bit of handouts here and there. But surely Ukraine can't survive any longer. What's your thoughts?
The narrative in the West that Russia's losing and they're not going to be able to go forward anymore. It's just Western propaganda. I mean, the fact is that daily Russia is taking new territory. It's definitely not going as fast as many estimates at the beginning of the whole, like the first 3 days in Kiev. Obviously, that didn't happen. But they're going slowly but surely. And this is just a fact. For me as a journalist, I just report what's really happening on the ground. But every day we're hearing about new villages, even if they're small villages, being controlled. And the West are saying, "Oh, there's just so many few kilometers." Da 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 da. The fact is that Russia controls almost 30% of Ukraine right now. That doesn't sound like they're losing. How much does Ukraine control of Russia? Or how much territory has Ukraine taken back of what Russia did control? There's a big difference here. That narrative is just something that the West is trying to push because that's what the Western government wants to be pushed. But the fact is that every day Russia is controlling more and more territory, and then they're just inching forward to the West and from the South as well.